Okay, this meeting is now called to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bacon. Here. Mr. DeCosta. Here. Mr. Lawrence. Present. Ms. Lewis, Ms. Martin. Here. Mr. Thielacker. Here. President Bioki.
Present.
Mayor DeMarco. Mr. Corbel.
I'm here.
Thank you. Mr. Brett. Chief Williams. And I'm present as well.
Okay, we're going to do things a little bit out of sequence this evening. I believe there's some interest in the next topic that's going to be coming up, which is the report by the engineer. So, Mr. Brett, if you would give us the report, please.
Yes. A couple items, complaints that's been reviewed over the past month. We had complaints on Cherry Valley and Sherwood from the residents of here indicated that there's water running behind their properties, through their properties on the street. Similar complaints in both areas. So we did go out and review those areas with Public Works. On Cherry Valley, Public Works also did call their mines, and they did take samples of the water to see if it comes from the main mines. Because in Forest Hills region, there's obviously a lot of areas that are undermined. There is mine discharge throughout the borough, especially down along Ardmore Boulevard. We're pretty sure about that. So there are mines come back with the report, and it was not indicated as from abandoned mines based on what they have. The residents feel free to reach out to DEP if you think you have a particular case to prove that it would be from an abandoned mine. Please do that, because they'll come out when the borough asks, and they will do testing. But it doesn't mean that you may call off a lower flow time and the concentrations are higher, and it will prove that it could be from a mine. Right now, flows are very high just from groundwater. We've had so much rain. In the winter, we had more snow, obviously, we've had for many, many years. So those two things combined, water flow is extremely high in the area, which means the any mine water is diluted. So when they test it, it doesn't have all the normal characteristics of mine water does. The next thing we do is we check and see is there any borough systems in the area that is not functioning, et cetera, from behind the properties. Sanitary sewage, storm sewer, there's a few areas from adjacent municipalities. So we take a look at that. In these areas, we have public infrastructure behind the houses that are extremely where the water is coming from. So we don't have an indication that any of the flows are coming from public infrastructure. Cherry Valley, though, we do have a project that council is actually authorizing the bid of 4 or 5 projects bid. We are going to build Stormfield Street and a section of it in order to provide connections that the residents then can connect under difference. Because based on our field review, the issues with the property, although they definitely exist, there's not an area that we looked at that doesn't have groundwater. Many places it's running on the street, very involved on the street. So first and foremost, the borough thinks to look at the right of way, and we want to provide a connection for that. We did bid the project over the winter, and the price is very high. We have better pricing typically with the road program on these types of storm sewers. So we are going to have a section built on Cherry Valley. It's going to be the first section in the worst area. We're going to provide 6 or 8 connection points. That will go outside and really cart running that, so the residents would have multiple places to connect. The report we indicated to the borough, there's not a public project on the properties recommending, because there's currently no public infrastructure there. So these unfortunately are private property issues. But again, we will provide the information for the Bureau of Mines. I do recommend this summer, once the flows go down, you're still going to probably see water coming out. If it's orange or white with aluminum in it, ever, That's a signal that it is, acid mine. And they will come out and they do give some help in areas to divert that water. If it's just groundwater and it's just purely running, that is private property, you should reject the run on drains and all those things. As far as solving the problem from the property, because there's no public lanes there, there's no public infrastructure. That the community, I wouldn't care. Sherwood's the same, I don't know if anybody's here from Sherwood. It's the same, situation, down there, it's just, last year, at some point, I had set out a complaint from there on a rain event. That there's no public infrastructure down there at all either. There's not even any catch basin in front of the properties with water going into. Cherry Valley is similar, we have some catch basins, we actually, there is a storm sewer on the other side of it. That project will be there over the next, month, we'll open bids in May. We do have every anticipation, it's in the budget. The road will open in better and make the storm sort of built early summer. So there is a place to connect, and we get to water off the street because, I worked with this area a couple times over the past few years. Even in the driest of a few of the properties have had water running, through the different bars and things from the back. So, again, we're not indicating that the problem doesn't exist. But as a borough engineer, the borough has to take a look at it to see is their infrastructure working appropriately. And unfortunately, or fortunately for the borough's case, and unfortunately for the residents, there's no public infrastructure in those areas. It's not functional. Just Chris.
No, if you have questions, please hold them and, send them to the borough manager. We don't do exchanges of questions and answers. That's fine. It's okay.
One of the other items for tonight on the agenda is, later in the public works agenda, we do have the advertisement for multiple projects. Because it's so expensive to advertise in papers, we are trying to work with communities to list all their projects in one advertisement in order to try to save sometimes thousands of dollars. So, the walkway project is, you have a grant for is being advertised. This COA project also is being advertised. PRP project is being advertised, the next one, and storm roadway improvement, which has this project. So we would ask for authorization to get that out if there's already needed, and then we open those in there. Any questions on any of that?
I believe the second contract, we also have a grant for it, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah, I think two of these have variants.
200,000, I believe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on to the public comment period here. At this time, only residents and taxpayers of the borough of Forest Hills will be permitted to address council on any issue, whether appearing on today's agenda or not. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them, who may speak for a maximum of 10 minutes. Speakers are asked to use the microphone at the speaker's stand and clearly state your name and spell it, and state the address for the record. If you have any documents to share with council members, you may present them to the borough manager now. Council president will determine how those materials will be distributed and viewed for the meeting. Speakers are reminded that council uses these comment periods as opportunities to gather information and not to respond directly to concerns raised. Information gathered will not be discussed at the meeting, but instead will be referred by the council president to the appropriate committee for review and discussion at the next committee meeting. If it is not a matter for deliberation by a committee, but requires more immediate attention, it will be referred to the borough manager, who will respond by phone and or email within 5 business days following this meeting. So who would like to go first?
Bill Manasseh, 140, Tangled. So on January 6th of this year, we had a situation in which at the meeting, Mr. Lawrence made the following comment. We are going to go from 4 to 3 at these committee meetings. Because we are worried about issues of public report. Straight out statement saying, well, we don't want anybody from the public at these meetings. That's January 6th. February 18th, Ms. Martin makes a statement, states that this issue was voted on. And it was approved by council. So the dilemma is, no one in this council said that they voted for it to support Ms. Martin's statement. So the question is why? All they had to do was say, we voted for that. And we will find that for you, Mr. Tomasi, it's concern of you. No such thing happened. I then began a series of events, writing notes, complaints, etc. There is no official record of that statement. So why is that the case? Because at that meeting, which occurred in November of 24, there were no minutes recorded. So if there is nothing in writing, that is invalid in terms of paying out. So what you're doing right now, following whatever policy you think you're following, is invalid from depending upon that. I don't know why that happened, because I spent tons of hours going through all this with all these reports, and it cost the borough. He's talking about saving money. Find out how much money that cost you. Find out how much money that cost you to respond to my request. So if someone would have stood up for this at the very beginning and said, yes, I voted for that, you would all been over. But that didn't occur. So again, I'm telling you that that's invalid based upon the sunshine. So I'm going to ask you again, which is I think the third time, somebody needs to bring that motion to the floor. Somebody needs to second that motion and then vote for it. Up or down? Up or down? If you want people to come to the meeting, then vote down. If you don't want the public at those meetings, then vote down. But then everyone here will be on record. I'm just amazed at the silence that exists. Send emails, nobody responds. Just because someone says you should doesn't mean you can't. All right? Tell me, Bill, Mr. Tomasi, I voted for them. I just don't know where it's at. The reason I couldn't find it is because it's not part of any official record. It's not in any minutes anymore. I searched and searched and searched. Okay? So waste of time, waste of money, because, and again, I sent you the email. What are you afraid of? What is so fearful to stop you from simply bringing that motion up and voting yes or no? I just don't know. I'm gonna have to file another complaint because of the fact that that discussion that Ms. Martin spoke of is not part of any official record. Okay, 2024, you guys didn't have minutes that were tied in to your agenda setting. Just do your job. That's all I ask you to do. And I asked you to do that from the very beginning. All right? Be open, be transparent, cast the vote, and let us all know what you want to do.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So I do have some resource of connection.
So is
So,
distributed?
pardon me?
Is it supposed to be distributed? No. No.
I'm not sure if there's a number. So good evening. My name is Mary Beth Nichols. You can spell that on the record. It's MARBTHMSCHOLLS. I am a resident, along with my husband on Cherry Valley Road. And I'm here tonight representing a group of people from Cherry Valley Road. people that are here from Cherry Valley Road, if you would mind taking a moment to raise your hand. Thank you. And I prepared this, prior to you addressing some of the water conditions, and I still would like to put this on record. So we are concerned about the change in the groundwater affecting the homes and our properties. And together, some of the people that are here and people that couldn't make it this evening have close to 200 years of home ownership on Cherry Valley Road. And we love our neighborhood. So we're here because we feel like our homes are under the threat from what we believe is an evolving water crisis. So we want to clarify that we're not here to talk about the water on the street. So while our street has managed typical surface runoff for decades, we're now witnessing something fundamentally different. Residents who have lived in their home for decades with dry yards and basements are now battling constant water through their foundations. We see water through garages and basement floors. We see water on driveways. We see water saturating yards, even during dry spells and this most recent period of very deep freeze. So many of us who have lived on Cherry Valley Road for 30 or 40 years can attest that the current conditions are unprecedented, and we believe that we are witnessing a change to the groundwater, which gets worse with each passing year. We want to formally request the borough's attention to this escalated problem. As homeowners, many of us here have already spent tens of thousands of dollars privately on high-capacity sump pumps, interior and exterior drainage systems to mitigate our damage and protect our real estate. However, we have concluded that as individuals, we cannot solve a neighborhood-wide water problem. To be clear, tonight we're here and we want to offer a partnership because we believe that by working together, maybe we can find a permanent solution that protects both the public infrastructure and our private properties. So we have documented observational data from decades, of which is in the package that I handed. And it's in an effort to help the borough engineer and the foreman to pinpoint the exact nature of rising waters. So we do have some requests, and they are as follows. First, we would love to be able to arrange a meeting with residents in the neighborhood and the borough to be updated on the corrective actions that are already in progress. So the former manager had stated to me in an email in February 2025 that a project had been designed and priced out, but he offered no detail on what that project was. He stated that the intent was to add a new section of storm lines to capture the water directly before reaching the driveway at 133 Cherry Valley Road. Second, we would like for the borough to share the findings of any recent engineering studies or hydrological studies, past or present, involving Cherry Valley Road. Also submitted is a water analysis from Penn State, which private resident had ordered and completed. Last, as residents, we would like to share the information that we know about the location of existing springs and seeps, as well as our theories, to make sure that the borough fully understands the scope of the problem before starting any corrective action. We want all the right solutions that will benefit all the residents in the street. In closing, I want to let you know that I did bring you the information that I handed over in the package, and you should find a topographical map of the area affected, a water summary on that topographical map, the water analysis from Penn State that was done independently. There are several residents who provided observational information, and there is some photos. We also have many more photos and even videos containing examples of the water and a list of the affected addresses. We respectfully request that this matter be considered, referred to, and addressed by the borough and engineer, public works foreman, and all borough property committees. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. For anyone else? Okay. Then we'll move on with,
Maybe,
yes,
could I ask the residents one question, they could clarify for me?
sure.
Just, since they provided information, if the residents, to provide the borough, what were done on the problems, you mentioned some pumps, drains, things like that. It is in the past, we've had some pumps, things like that, because I don't know. Us as far as we, I just want to make sure you include that, please, not knowing who has a sump pump or who put drains in, puts us in, meeting with haystack, to do what, if it's in there, that's helpful at least. That's the reason for the meeting. Okay, understood. Okay, thank you.
We'll move on with, the normal business, operations and policy. Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, a couple recommended motions. I request for the business meeting, we have a motion to reappoint Jay Silverblatt, the planning and zoning commission. This is a reappointment. All okay? Okay. Appointment of Doug Blair to first term as a member of the Environmental Advisory Committee.
Yes.
Good. Thank you. I believe he's quite active in the borough.
Yes, he is.
And got quite a nice review. All right, moving on. Let's see, status of committees, which we talked. Give you a little background here. At the business meeting on March 18th, 2026, it was brought up by some council members that we did not actively open up the committee meetings. And it was suggested we may want to do that. At that point, there was some discussion, not much, among council members, and the president of council referred it to the operations and policy. We discussed it twice among ourselves. And we're going to bring this topic up tonight. However, I think it's rather important we take a quick offering. It's been suggested that council has been non-open, either amongst themselves or with the residents, about this plan to have these committees and agenda meetings. So I think that's even driven some council members to question what's going on, and that's a concern. So fortunately, the president, today, he did note, and you can find this yourself, on the 12th of November, 2024, the idea of moving to an agenda meeting structure with individual committee meetings of just 3 was discussed from about minute 28 to minute 52. You are welcome to go through there. You will find 5 or 7 council members agreed to this. Anything? President Warren?
No.
Or Mr. Warren, council members.
He was telling me that because I was the president at the time when this passed. There was a lot of discussion on this. The manager at the time, Seth Abrams, brought up a new idea because what we had previously were committee meetings lasting 2.5 hours sometimes. And the fact that this topic alone started at minute 28 and went on to 52 gives you some idea of how long we would discuss things for. But the manager had approached me, so I was the president then, as well as the chair of laws and policy, and he bring up something new because we were tired of listening to ourselves and we're having a hard time staying with. The manager brought up several points, and one of them was, I don't remember verbatim, we've had a lot of discussion about that lately in emails, so I'm doing the best I can. But what he suggested is we weren't doing anything sneaky, but that sometimes when you throw out a crazy idea like he said he had, a lot of times if the public hears it, thinks that maybe that's already been voted on, it's a policy, rather than some idea where there isn't a direct plan. And that did happen. in discussion about maybe having a solar farm, there were residents calling up afraid that the borough was taking away the energy credits they were getting from having solar panels. So none of us ever thought anything about it, that this would be viewed as we're being sneaky, we're hiding things, and it was a trial. And yes, at this meeting, it was discussed in length. Mr. Lawrence is actually the one that noted, look how long this takes. And 5 of 7 people did vote for yes. We started it in January of 2025. There was no malice, but moving forward, my suggestion would be to, if we're not inviting the public, to continue with this and be sure to have a taped meeting, or else there will still be accusations flying. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you. Anyone else at this point? Mr. Becker?
I feel like the main issue that's been raised a lot lately, I feel strongly about is the default of not having the meetings advertised as open and time for the public to attend, which I think there is a benefit to having those only council meetings at times. I think there's an extremely significant benefit, that normally is a larger benefit than that, of having people always available to attend. But we've also not had issues just if people are asking to attend, we can tell them that and invite them and they can have a chance to come and share their views. I think right now that is kind of up to the individual committee chairs at this point. And I think it's probably not good to continue having that where we're kind of operating at different levels. So I appreciate that. Mr. Lawrence and the Ops and Policy Committee is working to come up with, I think, hoping to come up with a unified policy that kind of covers everything. And I think it's worth being patient on that a little bit longer. But I do think we're kind of ignoring the issue that has been brought up more recently, of just not having them open back at all.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Yes, back to the point this evening. It was referred to some policies, folks brought this up. Oh, yes. Did Ms. Lewis have something?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to, and I apologize, I couldn't be there and I'm gonna have to leave shortly. But I wanted to just thank you, Mr. Lawrence, for kind of picking this up, taking the lead, investigating the issue. I want to echo what Mr. Bacon just said. I think that there needs to be a sort of standardization. We're very lucky in Forest Hills that we have engaged residents who want to show up and participate and support the work that we do. So I just wanted to express that, and I'm, happy to support any efforts to figure out the best way to do that so that those meetings are open but also orderly and have some framework around them.
Yes, Mr. Bacon.
One suggestion I did want to add, I've noticed, I believe, Braddock Hills and Churchill, and possibly a few other neighboring boroughs, have been having just explicit public listening sessions lately with some council members that are not business meetings, they're not agenda meetings. It is simply just a time to kind of have an open house for citizens to come in and discuss things. And I think that might be something we should consider as possibly a solution to the dialogue with council desire, and kind of separate that from what we've been trying to do with the meetings.
We happen to host such meetings. I feel like how
All right, I'll tell you what, why don't we put that as a separate item, separately on opposite policies, and bring it back next month. I mean, just to give you information, in the past, when Mr. Morris was the full-time manager, he did sponsor some get-togethers. And, so we could look at it as probably an issue on its own, if we could do that. So I'll add that to the agenda for us on policies. Anyhow. The point tonight was to say, all right, the numbers we felt we need to do something to open this up. Sorry, some members would want to open it up. I'm just gonna say, I talked to everyone, Ms. Lewis just sent me something about an hour ago, she found, I had not time to look at it. What I suggest we do, and you can help me with this, is if we go to making this open, you want to be very, very practical. I think everyone enjoys the freedom we have now to schedule them a couple, no less than maybe a month ahead. We also, I think, enjoy the fact that we Zoom periodically. We've got people with jobs, have different times, we've got people with children, we all have obligations. Being able to use Zoom would be very, I think is something we want to keep. I think we want flexibility. So if we do want to have these things so that they're openly noted, I presume on the website, spending money about that's newspaper folks.
No, they don't need to be officially advertised.
No,
They are open because they're still locked on. So,
right,
yeah.
yeah,
They're not even listed on the calendar, on the public calendar.
Yes.
There's many meetings on.
yes, we know.
Yeah.
So the question is, how would you want to do that in a practical sense? How far ahead you would go on the website? Who's responsible for determining, okay, week ahead, we can't be there, we want a Zoom meeting. Who's gonna schedule that? Are you gonna post that on the website? People are gonna register ahead of time, you're just gonna leave it open for anybody to call in, I'm not sure I can recommend that.
Yep.
Those are very practical things you wanna think about. And I'm gonna pass something out to you to look at, a little bit of homework. Think about these issues. The other thing I want you to think about is, and I'm gonna be open, I think the way we were doing it was very, very effective. I can understand that it has some bad optics, but I think Councilmember Martin brought up a very good point. There are times when it's just the three of us talking, that we can, and God knows I hate this term, but we can spit out things. Bring out ideas that frankly we wouldn't want to discuss in public because it may be a really stupid idea, but once they hear it, it's gonna fly. And I've been here 11 years and things that showed up in certain plans that were brought up in meetings where somebody was just throwing out an idea, it spreads. Go on next door and you'll see. And it's very hard to kill them. So as you open these up, you're gonna have to remember that you have to watch what you say very carefully. Not you doing anything sneaky, but it can be read as, oh, this is what we're going to do. And I think that's the most frustrating thing I've experienced over the 11 years. You wouldn't believe the things that people think we have said we're going to do just because somebody brought it up. So my suggestion is, I just passed out copies of the public meeting comment policy. Now, in there, underlined on the back side is suggested changes that have nothing to do with tonight. They are just really covering us for if we have a technical breakdown. We're saying, hey, things can go haywire. We're not responsible, technology fails. But originally I was gonna ask for approval, but I think we're gonna be making some additional changes to this comment policy. So what I'd like you to do is, if you could look over, think of the things that you would do, nuts and bolts, to open your meetings, but handle them in a constructive, safe, respectful environment. I would suggest you can open it to the public comment section, limit it to 5 minutes, and that's it. That's just my suggestion. you are going to have to think in a very practical sense that when we do this. Right now, we're sitting in a dais with. I can't count. 8, 9 people, the police chief, the manager, well. The attorney is hiding behind there, but that's gonna be very different when you're sitting with 3 people and a very frustrated resident. And you have to, the chair will have to understand how to make that work. All right, I'm not saying these things can't, but what I'd like you to do. You have the operations policies committee, is to think of these issues, how would you do it? 2 weeks notice, 1 week's notice, whatever. Look at the back of the common policy, page 2. And the front. Are there things that need to change or be clarified if you want to go ahead? So if you could collect those ideas, send them to me in behalf of the operations and policy committee, and we'll collate them at the next meeting next week. And bring them back to you folks for consideration in a month. President Martin.
Mr. Lawrence, I would just like to ask all council members to please give us more than, I want transparency. We need help with this. It's all of your committees, okay? So please help us.
Yeah, I do mean that. Think of nuts and bolts. It's 7:30 at night. There's 3 of you. How do you want to handle this? I am not taking a stand right now. But I think that's what we need.
Mhm.
Would everyone agree to that? Yes. Yeah, Mr. P.
If I can real quick just add thoughts from kind of.
Sure.
From that, not just in the.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at this. Yeah, just in general, I thought tonight was kind of a perfect example of where my thoughts are coming from, just to get a little more public input. Gentleman from Cherry Valley potentially had a question for the borough engineer. At least my personal opinion, I have zero problem with, a couple of questions here, and that's what we're here for, right? Maybe a question gets answered, answer satisfactory, they don't need to come to the big meeting. Anyways, that kind of takes that potentially out of question, right? So that's just something that kind of came to mind and put my thoughts into.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And not to add, but here's an example of suggestion. If you post it on the website, if they meet at 7:30, you can also post the name and an email address of the chair and say, talk to me ahead of time. Maybe it's something very simple. I'll have to say, over the years, most of the things that come to people, come to that podium, could have been easily handled by just talking to the borough manager. That's not the case in all cases, of course, but so many of them easily handled.
Mr. Lawrence, just want to point out, if everyone has maybe does not remember, but on the website, under the council meetings, there's a place for folks to actually send their requests to the borough manager if they can't attend the meeting and they would like some information or a question brought up or answered during the meeting. We've hardly ever gotten anything on those, but that is available.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Morris.
Just a quick comment, if I know you mentioned Zoom, and if you're going to consider something like Zoom or even Teams, which I personally hate, but regardless, realize it's not just as simple as turning this thing on. I mean, you have to have you're limited in how many people can control the Zoom account unless you want to pay a lot more money. And I'm sure that's true with Teams as well. So it depends on, how you envision that. Think about that before you actually suggest that and say that's the best option. It may be a good option, but it does have some limitations, which I'd be happy to go into some other time. I don't want to take up your time now.
Okay, thank you. All right, if you could send everything to me, if you could, I'll put a deadline for next Monday at noon. If you don't turn your homework in, you get a lower grade. Okay, revision of public comment policy, covered that. Advisory committees, I'm gonna hold that to another time. The only thing is, just to let you know, last month, we had an issue about how we're gonna update comp and climate plans, and that would be referred to the planning and zoning committee at the last agenda meeting. So we'll move on to that committee. I have nothing else to report tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Finance Committee, Mr. Thielacker.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only thing I have, Public Works brought the finance, the, request of purchase of the Ben track, multi-use tractor type thing Public Works Department uses. It was initially in the budget for last year and somehow it's half still there, let's inspection about that aspect also, it's still line item in the budget, the money wasn't there. But either way, I guess, they're looking to see if we can get that purchased. I guess last year, it was discussed that the solar panel money came in, that can be bought with the solar panel money, and we kind of wait and see situation. Twice we bought the solar panel money. So we thought that'd be a good use of a portion of that to purchase this outright, get that. And bought for Public Works, and the rest of that money will set aside until, down the road next year's budget, we can see what's going on. But, any questions or comments about that?
So are you proposing that we have a motion to accept the purchase for this?
Yes, I am, it's on everybody look at that.
And the cost is $64,544.
Thank you.
Why'd you ask? It was a test.
Yeah.
Mr. Bacon have something.
This is part of our discussion on this in finance committee. This is a chance where we have this kind of lump sum of money from the solar fund to keep things simple as we establish an actual long-term capital purchasing plan. It would be very nice to also save interest payments over time. We won't just purchase this out of them, so that we have a clean slate moving forward.
Is everybody in agreement with moving this forward?
Yes.
Anything else for questions? So I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Thielacker. Borough property, Mr. Bacon.
Thank you. I have no recommended motions this evening as a brief general report. I will give some project updates. The pool lodge is at 90%. And appears to be on schedule for regular pool opening. The stairs around the borough have the railing still coming in sometime in the next few weeks. There was a delay in that, but it is moving forward. And the bridge in the park is currently under the development construction and should be delivered within the next few weeks. I did also just informally speak with Public Works Foreman Smith, and he was suggesting that we start thinking about maybe April, by end of April, might be in good state to have some sort of grand opening park. So I would suggest that we start thinking about something to celebrate this occasion of all our residents there. With whatever committee would like to, the state charter assist, and make for that for the next.
There is an Arbor Day celebration on the 24th of April. If that might be a simple time to do that. Will be fine.
I'm not sure. If we
I don't think it'll be done.
That'll be close. Let's see, I think that time will be really close.
So I think maybe we should try and start planning for a separate vacation for them.
Mr. Bacon, on the projects for the steps, that should move the project Woodside forward, and that would clean that up. Is that correct? Okay. All right, because there was some question from a resident about that.
And then finally, at the last committee meeting, we had the garden club president come to just give us some general updates on garden club plans and a few small requests that they have involving borough property that we will review next month. Concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. Planning and zoning, Ms. Lewis, is she still with us? Okay, is there anyone else want to pick that up?
I don't think we have anything awesome.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Spielhager. We'll move on to Public Works Committee, Ms. Martin.
Thank you, President Biobi. Mr. Brett has brought up that we have, I would like to have 4 motions on the business meeting for all the contracts listed. That would be the walkway, the flow reduction, the stormwater detention basin, and then finally the roadway improvement program. I passed out a list of roads for everyone. So unless anyone has anything to say. Questions? Yes, sir.
Storm retention, are we, looking forward to the 3 ponds that will be in Florence and Woodlawn Park? Is that what that refers to?
Now, I think that's MS4. Would you please,
Yeah,
Yes.
the, at least 2 of the ponds in the park, we haven't laid out, and we're gonna, mark them in the field. Everybody can view for okay, they're good candidates. You have 2 that are really good candidates within the park. We're trying to limit the trees at this point, so, that'll happen over the next week or so. You can have that review, something like everybody's okay, and we can proceed with that.
any other questions? Mr. DeCosta?
Ms. Martin, I remember at our discussion in committee that not all of these alternates are going to be included in the initial, is that correct?
Correct.
Great, so we're doing which ones?
We pared down the, list of roads, that will be bidding. Base bid was, Tater, Sylvan, and Sylvan Way.
Right,
And then base bid for the alleys would be Barkley and Service Road number
3.
3.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, ordinance, let me take a look at that and make sure what, you know, my.
yeah, I can't quite remember which they were.
Yeah, there was 2.
You have the sheet.
Yeah, but we're not doing all of these.
Right.
Some of the ordinance we dropped out because of other work. Yeah. I will be back to everybody with email.
Okay.
So you have it. We'll vote.
And don't be scared because of the total, because we're just sticking to our 1 mil cost for roads.
Right, that's.
You know, that kind of scared me too at first.
Right.
But Kevin wouldn't do that. Anyone else? Okay, that ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Moving on to Public Safety, Mr. DeCrosta.
I don't have any recommended motions for our next business meeting. One of the big things that we're still talking about are, the traffic calming issues, are more with, speed signs and, the speed lines and so forth. So we're still in discussion about those. We're gonna have another meeting to discuss, some of the options, what are the real options that we have and how much money it's gonna cost us. And, Mayor DeMarco and I discussed having an emergency response and meeting with all of the stakeholders. And we were gonna hold it soon, but then we decided that we're gonna wait for the new manager to get on board, since they will be part of that process. And have it hopefully, you know, once that person is settled into the position, and then have a whole report for everybody. But that's all, any questions? That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. DeCrosta. Mayor DeMarco, do you have anything?
I would like to issue 2 proclamations in the April business meeting, if it's appropriate to do it there. One being the required Arbor Day proclamation to retain our Free City status. And that is issued by the Free City organization, and we just adopted this little proclamation. And the other is a proclamation commemorating the 50th Day. And it's a little long, but I don't think it's a really long proclamation. So I will give this over to Annette to prepare so that they can be ready for the 5th. If that's okay with that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor DeMarco.
And I also do request to have an executive committee at business meeting to address personal matters.
Chief Williams, do you have anything? Okay. Do we have any old business? new business. Please stay around for about 5 minutes. We're gonna have an executive session. Be very quick. Unless there's any objections, this meeting will be adjourned. Mr. Bacon,
You want to make a reason for the executive session?
personnel issues. Any objections? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.
Let's go back to my-